Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. Their pharmacists are here to help, offering a wide range of vaccines including flu, COVID, pneumonia, and RSV immunizations. Visit your local Safeway or schedule online at safeway.com/pharmacy.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Today, some of you woke up to some frost. So if you're a gardener, I hope you heard our tips on how to help prepare for winter. And if you haven't heard it, I'll link to it on our show notes. I'm Arlo Pérez Esquivel. Coming up, sheriff's deputies at Denver's jail say staffing levels are so low, they're now dangerous.
Deputies hope they can up their pay, but you can imagine another scenario where things actually get worse.
Then, more federal layoffs. The latest to be fired, employees focused on addiction and mental health. And those responsible for public lands, they appear to be close behind.
It's just going to have a cascading impact.
Plus, what an archaeologist is digging up about the history of Central City's madams.
You know, it wasn't taboo like it is so many places.
It's Tuesday, October 21st. Here's the news in Colorado today. Sheriff's deputies in Denver are leaving their jobs in droves, and the resignation letters point to a possibly dangerous situation for the deputies and for the inmates at the jail. Denverite reporter Kyle Harris has read more than 50 of these resignation letters. And Kyle, what is the biggest concern that you've found on those letters?
Well, the deputies are tired. There's huge amounts of understaffing. Only 67% of sheriff deputy positions are currently filled. And they are working mandatory overtime every month. There are other issues, too, like internal affairs investigations that just grind on too long from their perspective, and many have concerns about poor leadership. But understaffing makes everything worse.
And how exactly is that problem showing up at their work?
Well, okay, so the jail is the biggest responsibility that Denver sheriff deputies have. And everyone agrees that it is a tough job, really one of the toughest in the city. Deputies are responding to fights in the jail. They sometimes have to administer reversal drugs to stop overdoses. They give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to people who've quit breathing, and they sometimes even get assaulted by people who are locked up. There are pods where, inmates are spending their days and nights that used to have 2 sheriff deputies monitoring them. Now, in some cases, there is only 1. Right now, on average, a person a month is dying at the jail, mostly from overdoses and natural causes. Think heart disease, incidents related to epilepsy. That's more than twice the annual average prior to the pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah. We can't directly attribute inmates' deaths to the staffing shortage, but deputies say more staff could save lives. A union leader for the deputies and one of the resignation letters both said deputies' performance at work is suffering, that they're also making mistakes, too.
Well, what about the deputies personally? As you know, when you have a difficult time at work, it doesn't just stay at work. So how's it affecting them personally?
Exactly. It's rough. So they say that the mandatory overtime they're working particularly affects them and their families. They end up missing out on key time with their children, with their spouses. Some deputies even say they've fallen asleep while driving home after a 16-hour shift. And all of this is on top of the fact that the Denver Sheriff Department pays less than some others around the metro area. Shocking, since this is the biggest sheriff department in the state. In Adams or Arapahoe County, for example, deputies can start $4,000 or $6,000 higher.
Tell me about that sheriff. How is he responding to these problems?
So Elias Diggins is a veteran of the department. He's been there for about 30 years. He became sheriff 5 years ago. And he tells his deputies a hard-learned lesson. That is that the work is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And even though they have mandatory overtime, he encourages folks to take time off, to take care of themselves. He meets with the deputies union, has an open-door policy. He tries hard to listen to their concerns. And the department does offer some self-care perks. The deputy talked about how American Furniture Warehouse donated massage chairs. The downtown jail has a really nice fitness center and also quiet rooms for staff to decompress. But they say they don't necessarily have time to take advantage of all those perks. Sheriff Diggins has also put in a variety of measures to cut down on contraband coming into the jail, new x-ray machines that are airport grade, limits on mail that inmates can receive. His goal, cut down on overdoses and also attacks on deputies.
Now, is there a way out of any of this?
Well, right now, deputies are bargaining for a new contract with the city. This is a union contract. It could raise their pay. And, that might hopefully attract some more new applicants. That said, the city is in a budget crisis and may not be able to afford a raise this year. When it comes to trouble recruiting and retaining sheriff deputies, though, it's more than just the pay. The Denver Sheriff Department has reputation issues for some folks. This department just isn't as desirable as those in other counties where employees do more traditional police work. In Denver, that is not really part of the job. Instead, they are largely in charge of the jail, evictions, and a few other civil duties.
And you'd mentioned leadership issues as well, right?
One critic I talked to, Lisa Calderon, who used to run the city's reentry program, says she thinks the sheriff himself should be replaced. Now, the deputies, they hope they can up their pay, but you can imagine another scenario where things actually get worse. Mayor Mike Johnston says he wants to increase policing of low-level crimes, what he calls quality-of-life crimes, addiction, things related to mental health issues, and his hope is he can use the jail to help push people into treatment. That would potentially mean more people cycling through the jail. And more people in the jail means more work for the deputies who already say they're overburdened.
Denverite's Cal Harris, thank you so much.
Thank you.
While the government shutdown is being fought all the way in Washington, its effects are being felt here, especially when it comes to mass federal layoffs. Recent reports show that people working in addiction treatment have lost their jobs amid the shutdown. That information is causing Congresswoman Brittany Petterson, who represents Lakewood, to sound the alarm about what it could mean for services here.
It's devastating when I think about how many lives are going to be lost.
The Democrat says addiction treatment and mental health services have taken a double hit this year. First, with the loss of hundreds of millions of dollars in federal grants for health services, and then layoffs last week with the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
We finally were moving in the right direction.
Earlier this year, experts at the CDC were encouraged to report that in 2024, drug overdose deaths had dropped by nearly a quarter nationwide. That's about 70 lives saved every day. They said that improved access to evidence-based care was a key factor.
Now they're dismantling the very systems that have helped support people to get the treatment that they need to live in recovery and rebuild their lives.
Before the shutdown happened, Trump threatened that he would fire large numbers of people to put pressure on Democrats. But Petterson and other Democrats voted against a stopgap funding measure that would have kept the government open. Now that layoffs are happening, Petterson has not walked back her support for the shutdown. She has stated that the layoffs will be devastating, not just for addiction treatments, but mental health services as well.
All of the critical employees that we rely on to dedicate these dollars here in Colorado and across the U.S. to support treatment and recovery programs, as well as track overdose death rates, they are now at half their original size since the beginning of the year.
One other recent federal change has her concern, too. The change is coming to Medicaid because of the Republicans' tax and spending bill. Medicaid has covered some recovery services, but that coverage is now in jeopardy.
We're going to be reaching out to our behavioral health experts in the state that we've worked alongside for years just to better understand what these implications are. But they were already having a difficult time, huge delays in grants. They just didn't have the staff capacity to oversee the work that we were used to having support on here in the state. And because this just happened, I think that it's just going to have a cascading impact.
And And while all of this is going on, the Federal Department of Interior revealed yesterday how it plans to lay off thousands more people nationwide, including some here in Colorado. This agency is responsible for public lands and natural resources. CPR's Caitlin Kim has been looking at the numbers. Caitlin, first, why are they telegraphing their layoffs but not yet announcing who will be let go?
So late last week, a court ordered President Trump to stop firing people, what's called RIFs, or reduction in force, because of the government shutdown. But the court also asked them to explain planned layoffs. So the Interior Department filed a brief yesterday describing their plan to lay off about 2,000 people nationwide at the department and the agencies it oversees. And they specifically say these are not shutdown related and were, quote, planned to happen imminently.
So then how many of those people are in Colorado?
So the filing includes 87 people who work at the Bureau of Land Management's Operations Center in Denver. It doesn't name names or job titles. It just says the number of positions they plan to cut. It also includes 33 positions at the Colorado State Field Office for the BLM that will be cut and 40 people at the National Park Service's Denver office. The agency also plans on cutting 39 jobs at the U.S. Geological Survey's Fort Collins Science Center. So just about 200 Colorado-based people at the Interior Department.
Do we know just how quickly these people are going to be let go?
No, we don't know anything as of yet, mainly because there's a temporary freeze on the firings as the case goes through the court system. Now, the White House said last week more than 10,000 government workers could lose their jobs in the shutdown, and that's never happened before in a federal shutdown, though. And Democratic Representative Joe Neguse, who is ranking member of the Public Lands Subcommittee, called the layoffs illegal and politically motivated. He says they'll hurt these civil servants and Coloradans who treasure public lands.
CPR's Caitlin Kim in Washington. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you've been to Central City, it might have been to play at the casinos, or maybe to see the historic mines there, even visit the 19th century Opera House. Well, students at Metro State University are making the drive an hour west of Denver to dig up another part of Central City's history.
The first kind of stage when we get back in the field is we have to wash everything, or dry brush it if it's something that can't be washed like a metal.
This is archaeologist Jade Louise, who's leading the students. They sort through the remnants of soda bottles, a medicine bottle, an old coin.
This is some snazzy shoes. They've got faux alligator print on them.
All to try and find out the truth about an industry that was and still is illegal in Colorado.
My specialization is 19th century sex work, archaeology and 19th century sex work.
Louise has never found a first-hand contemporary account of what it was like to be a sex worker in the 19th century. And she wants to see if archaeology can reveal it. She started this work in New England, where she earned her PhD, then moved to Metro State in Denver a few years ago. And she's found that in Central City, sex work was pretty out in the open.
And so it's very odd for me, coming from Boston, where everything is like innuendo. Puritan. We're not talking about it. Very Puritan. And so it was really like doing detective work to even find evidence that there is sex work going on in Boston in the 19th century. And then here it's like, oh, no, here's photographs and names and dates and things like that.
It's even celebrated here to this day. Each summer in Central City, there's a festival named after a famous madam. And get this, people race in it. Two people sit on a brass bed on wheels and are pushed down the street. They even include some red sheets on the bed. Louise's student, Nate Benson, took some of the artifacts they found to last year's festival.
Being able to talk to people and show them what we found and tell them what actually happened up there. Like, really? What? I've lived here my whole life. I didn't know that. It's part of the historical part of it is bringing it to the present, and letting people know, hey, this is here, don't pave over that or whatever. There's important things around that need to be discovered and understood.
Louise says this archaeological work is part of an effort to legitimize people who found their own way to survive in the Wild West, whether or not they were accepted by their neighbors. And she says the history of sex work is a lens into broader American history.
We've definitely seen these sorts of peaks and valleys in terms of how we as a society perceive sex work and sex workers.
It's also a roadmap to society's changing views on women, intimacy, and morality throughout the centuries. And for students like Juniper Finch, it is a way to get up close with history.
You're like in the dirt on your hands and knees, and you're like, yes, I found this lamp. This is awesome. I think it's thrilling.
Some of the artifacts they found are going to be part of an exhibition at a museum in Central City. You can see photos now at denverite.com. Thanks to photojournalist Kevin Beatty. Reporting for today's show came from CPR's John Daly. I'm Arlo Perez Esquivel. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, where you can shop online and get easy delivery or free pickup. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Shop the weekly ad, clip deals, and earn points at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.